Sussman Channel 238, online at FNTSY.com, or on your Xbox One and Xbox 360. Thanks for being part of our Fantasy Football Weekend.
The Fantasy Football Weekend continues here on the Fantasy Sports Network. We got the Flex League drafts. We got the Fantasy Sports Network Cup. And now we're joined by Mike Blewitt and David Gonos. What's going on?
How we doing?
I feel good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for chatting with us.
Mike, do you go anywhere without your sports jacket?
I do not. This is a standard issue. I try to bring this wherever I go, sometimes in the shower, but usually not.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm watching all these people come in. You're in a nice button down here, David. You're in your sports jacket. I'm in my T-shirt. And I've seen all these guys come in. I like this
You're the
T-shirt.
smart guy.
I like this T-shirt. And I realize there's no air where we are sitting.
Yeah.
Now, Mike Demerges behind the camera says, you look terrible, which is frustrating because I've done 1,000 of these now. So this is embarrassing. David, which draft are you in? It has to be the 5 o'clock one because this other one hasn't already started.
Yeah, I'm in the Fantasy Cup. I was in the Flex League that was in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Is there a championship title for that one?
Yes.
The belt.
Yes.
That's like the coolest thing
I've already
ever.
taken pictures of that, tweeted that out as if it's already happened.
Well, where can we follow you on Twitter?
At David Gonos.
That seems pretty,
Gonos.
that seems pretty reasonable.
And I've been looking at the cup, and I've already been trying to I'll fill it with champagne.
Do you want to touch the cup,
with
or
beer.
you're not like
It's
no.
superstitious?
Superstitious.
No.
Okay.
No.
What pick,
Jelly beans?
What
maybe?
pick do you have tonight?
I think I'm fourth.
Who are you looking for at your fourth
I'm
pick?
going running back early, and I think everyone's going to be going wide receiver early.
Right.
So
what format is that, to clarify?
Is it half-point PPR?
No, it's a full.
They're doing full-point
PPR.
PPR.
Yeah.
Okay. 14-team league.
It's big.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. You're not in the league with them, right?
Not to my
We're
knowledge.
not. We're not in the
So
league.
we can.
We just sit here and we
can
talk
share
to-
some secrets.
No, I can tell you some people's information. I can let you know some secrets. But what
Yeah,
about
my
you?
game plan going in is I'm not a big zero running back theory guy.
Okay.
I'm a big guy, not zero running back theory guy. And part of my reasoning for that is once you load up on wide receivers early, then you have to load up on running backs mid.
Right.
If you go back and look at the past few years, those mid running backs are all right. But the mid receivers, there's plenty of guys that have been sprinkled in through the past few years. Look at last year, guys. The rookies like Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks. Like there's a lot of those mid picks that I'd rather spend on receivers that have a shot at doing more for me than a running back in those mid picks.
Well, my argument to that is
No.
Okay. Next question.
Veto. No.
My argument to that one is, David, if you look at the running backs here, the top 5 running backs this year, for instance, they all have their own stuff, right? Le'Veon Bell, suspended for the first 2 games. Adrian Peterson missed all of last year. Eddie Lacy battled concussions last year and didn't score and didn't really do very much the first 6 weeks. Jamal Charles has gone down in carries each of the last 3 years. Marshawn Lynch, is this the year he finally falls off? There's question marks with every one of these guys, and that's not even talking about injuries, really. With the wide receivers, for instance, yes, injuries are a factor when it comes to Julio Jones or Odell Beckham, but Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, not Calvin Johnson, but A.J. Green, before Jordy Nelson, they seemed, pending injury, obviously, safer than the running backs, finally. That's kind of the direction where I think most fantasy leagues are going, no?
I think that's definitely where everything is moving.
Right.
Which is why, that's the zig. I'm the zag.
Fantasy contrarian David Gonos. I see what's happening
and
here.
it's kind of one of those weird, old school running back guys, but at this point now I'm a dinosaur for doing that,
Frankly, I'm a little bit more like David than I am embracing the zero running back theory. I agree with him that there's a lot more depth sort of in the mid-range. Now, what concerns me when you don't get one of those top running backs is you ultimately are looking at running back by committee or trying to guess what committee may come if one of those big guys gets hurt, suspended, whatever it might be. So that's what concerns me. That's why I typically go for one of those top 5 running backs. I'm a best player available type of guy, which probably more aptly describes what we are trying to do from a strategic standpoint than eschewing the zero running back theory. So for me, I'm trying to get that best player available. I'm looking if it's in the top 4. I will have one of those top 4 guys. I would put Lynch maybe a smidge back, and then I'd have to really start figuring out best player available. Maybe it is Antonio Brown or Julio Jones instead of Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
You're old school, David. That says, I like the running back early. It's not what people like, but that's what I like. Now, I'm also old school usually, and I've always drafted running back first, and that's why I've had my struggles in the recent years, I think. So I've also gone in the past running back. this year, I don't know if in your spot at 4, especially in a 14-team league, you're going to get on this crew, but the Jeremy Hill, C.J. Anderson, LaShawn McCoy, DeMarco Murray, Matt Forte crew, that really interests me. If I can get a wide receiver in one of those, I feel like I'm in a really good spot because after that, it's a disaster.
Yeah, it's a good point. In a 14-team league, that back end is pretty far out there.
Right.
So I would love to, if a Jeremy Hill,
right.
I mean, any of that, something like that. Even, I'm looking more towards like a, Alfred Morris I'm not going to do here, in PPR you have to be a little bit later, but Justin Forsett or Frank Gore even in the back end of the second round, which is in a 14-team league, so it's almost the front end of the third. And then, honestly, my plans are after that, get those two guys. My plans are after that is just drill the receivers.
Who are some of these receivers you want to drill? Because we've talked so much today about the top 5, and then even the Randall Cobb, Alshon Jeffrey crew, which is the next couple guys, and A.J. Green as well. But what comes next? Like, I know Mike Evans is there, but I don't know if he'll be there for you.
No.
I want to know the middle guys, after Brandon Cooks, after Mike Evans. Who am I looking at?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
It's true, but I think there's still potential for there. One of the problems with receivers is they're dependent.
Yeah.
With running backs, they're going to get carries. They're the only ones getting carries, especially if we're looking at the top tier. With wide receivers, they're dependent on that quarterback. Any problems with the passing game, if the quarterback's injured, the wide receiver's injured, essentially.
Absolutely.
So there's a little bit of different play there. I would like someone like, we just mentioned earlier, or we were just talking about earlier. Sammy Watkins is somebody maybe a little bit later. I think he's kind of like almost a post-hype sleeper, and we talked about bad quarterback play affecting the receiver, and that's a guy who good quarterback play is all of a sudden going to be this guy's going to blow up.
And I think there's a few guys you could wait on.
Let's hear them, Mike.
Which may or may not be in those earlier rounds. DeAndre Hopkins is a guy I like a lot, but he's probably going pretty early, certainly before in that Cooks to Mike Evans range. But I think if you're in a full-point PPR league, a guy that you really want to look at that you can wait on is Anquan Boldin. He's still going to get a huge market share from Colin Kaepernick. He may not be the sexiest pick. He may not be everybody's favorite player out there. But Anquan Boldin has shown that he's more reliable than Vernon Davis and anybody else that you want to put on that team. Cap looks to him when he's in trouble or when he needs to pick up a first down every time. And Anquan Boldin consistently picks up those 85 catch seasons.
Not to cut you off, sorry, but one of those guys, I think in that later stage is maybe a Cole Beasley, a guy that's going to kind of slip in.
PPR.
He's moved up, and this guy's probably going to get 4 or 5 catches, possibly a game. And, Terrence Williams is kind of faded back into obscurity a little bit, and Cole Beasley's got Tony Romo's eye, so that could be a guy that
I like that. I like that call a lot. T. Williams is just really a home run hitter at this point.
One more guy I want to ask you about, David, before we let you get back to your draft prep here. It's Keenan Allen in San Diego. We mentioned him a little while ago. Some people said he should be a wide receiver 1. Now he's really fallen. He was a sexy name last year. Nobody likes him anymore. What do you think about Keenan Allen?
I'll take him.
Take him.
Yeah. I just took him in I have a draft going on right now. My phone died, so a guy that was at the draft picked it up for me. It's an old, like a 11-year-old buddy league.
Okay.
And he picked up Keenan Allen for me. I want to say it was a keeper. It's a keeper league, so the rounds don't matter. But I ended up getting him. I'm a fan.
Good.
Again, post-hype sleeper. This is now his 3rd year. Will they break out? I love it.
Beautiful. We'll get you back into your room. You can go eat now, I hear. There's food, which is fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
That's good for you. We continue at Fantasy Football Weekend here on Fantasy Sports Network. We continue on after this.